In this topic about the spiralians, we will be discussing about the early mollusks. The early mollusks were present during the early Cambrian, where they had a time of experimentation. So what does the time of experimentation mean? The time of experimentation means that they were evolving rapidly and they were trying different things. A variety of short-lived and often bizarre molluscan groups were formed, and these bizarre molluscan groups were having different adaptations according to their different environment. And that's why we call it an experimentation. They were trying different adaptations in order to survive in their particular environment. And after that, they dominated many faunas. So the first mollusks descended from the forms like living flatworms. The flatworms are the spiculate animals, and we think the scientists or the paleontologists agree that there were some life forms which are resembling to the flatworms, and from those animals the mollusks were descended. And all of these animals were containing the radula and gill on the posterior side of their body. And these were similar to the soft-bodied aplacophorans. So what are the aplacophorans? We can see here. So what are the aplacophorans? The aplacophorans are a group of shell-less mollusks. So these are just like mollusks, and these are alive today. And these mollusks are lacking any shell. So they look like that they don't have a shell. So necessarily what we are discussing here, we are discussing that the mollusks have evolved from the organisms that were soft-bodied, and they later developed a shell. And why this is just a hypothetical, or why we are just assuming that, because due to the lack of any shell, they were not able to preserve as a fossil. And that's why these are the organisms which are thought as the ancestors of the organism, just like aplacophorans are thought as the ancestors of the mollusks. So aplacophorans and the shelled mollusks share a common ancestor probably during the late Precambrian period. And an example of that is Cambrella. So here you can see a diagram of the Cambrella, right? This diagram which is showing the picture of Cambrella fossil. The body fossil and trace fossil place Cambrella near the base of the molluscan clad and suggest a deep origin for the phylum. So that means the Cambrella is the fossil that you can see on the right side of the picture. It is near to the molluscan origin. So it and the phylum Mollusca shared a common ancestor. And here there is another diagram which is showing the Odontogramphus, and it is possessing a radula, right? So Odontogramphus is another original animal that is thought to be related to the ancestors of the mollusks. And it is having the broad foot and a stiffened dorsum, so placing it firmly within the mollusks. So it is sort of very much related to the mollusks, and it is even close to the Cambrella. And here you can see the phylogeny and stratigraphic ranges of early mollusks mapped into some ecological changes. So here you can see the first upper arrow is showing the Cambrella in the cladogram, and the right side there is another arrow which is showing the Odontogramphus. So you can see the both of these organisms, these were evolved during the early Cambrian, for example the Cambrella, and the late Cambrian, that is the Odontogramphus, and both are very much related to the ancestors that were present during that times. And these the mollusks are the soft-bodied organism, and they hadn't had evolved into a shelled organism. That's why they don't have any particular fossils record. So there are the different periods which are shown here as well: Halkieria, Cambrian, and Ordovician. So you can see that there are some different changes among the mollusks, how mollusks are going from the mad bass ecology into the vertical burrowers and until they are having the full-blown phylum Mollusca. And there is another organism which is called Halkieria. Halkieria is much more related to the mollusks. It is even more related to the earlier two ancestors that we have discussed. So the Cambrian rocks of the Danish islands of the Bornholm, where you had the earliest form of the Halkieria, which was shellless. But after that, there were some articulated specimen from the early Cambrian series Passat fauna, and that was from the northern Greenland. So you see that there was some from shell-less fossils, the shelled articulated. Articulated means that those movable, right? So they have the shell, and those shells were able to move. So here you can see a diagram of Halkieria. Halkieria is a mollusk possessing most of the features of that define the phylum, but a number of characteristics such as the shell at the anterior and the posterior of the animal. So on the right side you can see a fossil picture of the fossil of Halkieria, and it has having a anterior as well as the posterior shell. And on the basis of the presence of shell, we have said that this is a new class of mollusks, and it is the Diplacophora. Di means two, and Placophora means it is having some sort of shell on it. So two shell, one on the interior shell, another one is the posterior shell. And there are the two basic origins, right? So although it is contested that whether it has the monophyletic origin or the many origins, so there are two groups which are originated from the mollusks. One is the Halkieriids mollusks. So those are the organisms which are just like Halkieria, and they have been evolving from through the lower Cambrian. And then there are the hyolids. These are the long conical calcareous shells with an operculum covered aperture. So their aperture is some sort of a pore, and it is covered with a lid-like structure which is called operculum. So these were evolving through the Cambrian to the Permian era.